This shouldn't be surprising, but most of the meetings on your calendar right now do not need to be meetings. Not because they are unimportant. Because the problem they are trying to solve is not a real-time conversation problem. It is a written communication problem. And there is a difference, a significant one, between those two things. According to Atlassian's research, the average professional attends 62 meetings per month and considers 31 of those hours unproductive. That is not a meeting problem. That is a meeting selection problem. In a previous video, I showed you how to run the before, during, after workflow for meetings that do need to happen. This episode is about the step before that, figuring out which ones those actually are. By the end of this video, you will have a 3-question filter you can run on any meeting request in under 2 minutes, and a Claude prompt that turns the ones that do not pass into something better. Free tools only. Let's get into it. Before you accept or book any meeting, 3 questions. That is the entire framework. You do not need all 3 to be yes, but if 2 or 3 are no, the meeting probably should not be a meeting. Question 1. Is there a decision that needs to be made and can only be made by the people in this room? Question 2. Does making that decision require real-time back and forth, negotiation, nuance, or something that would take longer to write than to say? Question 3. Is everyone who needs to weigh in actually available, and is this the right moment for that conversation? If the answer to all 3 is yes, you have a meeting. If 1 or more is no, you have a document, an email, a voice memo, or a recorded walkthrough. And the person you were about to schedule 45 minutes with might actually prefer that. Question 1 is the filter that does most of the work, because most meeting requests fail it immediately. Think about the last 3 meetings you attended or booked. For each one, what specific decision came out of it? Not a general update, not an alignment, a decision. Something that was uncertain before the meeting and settled after it. If you cannot name it, the meeting was probably an update dressed up as a conversation. Updates do not require real-time attendance. They require a well-written document and a reply by date. The discipline here is being honest about intent. I want to check in is not a decision. I want to get everyone aligned is not a decision. We need to decide whether to renew this contract before the 15th. That is a decision. The specificity of the outcome is what determines whether the meeting earns the time it costs. Question 2. Does this decision require real-time back and forth? Some conversations genuinely need real time. Negotiation, where the other side's reaction changes your next move. Emotional conversations, where tone matters more than content. Creative exploration, where one idea builds on the last before anyone has time to write it down. Most conversations are not those things. A project status update does not become more accurate because you said it out loud. A decision that can be framed as a clear question with 3 options and a recommendation can be made asynchronously, with more deliberation and less pressure than a meeting allows. The test is simple. Could you write this down clearly enough that the other person could respond without a follow-up call? If yes, write it down. Question 3. Is everyone available at the right moment? This one catches the meetings that pass the first 2 questions but should still be delayed. Scheduling a meeting when the right conditions are not in place does not produce a better decision, it produces a faster one. And faster is not always better when the decision has real consequences. If the answer to question 3 is no, the right move is not to cancel. It is to create the conditions first, send the pre-read, get the stakeholder up to speed, and then schedule. Running this filter mentally works. Running it with Claude works faster, and it catches the rationalizations the mental version lets through. The pre-meeting assessment prompt asks Claude to evaluate the meeting request against all 3 questions, and then recommend one of 4 outcomes. Hold as planned, hold but send a pre-read first, replace with an async alternative, or delay until a specific condition is met. The third outcome is where this gets practical. When Claude recommends an async alternative, it drafts it in the same response, a decision brief, a situation update, or a structured question with a reply by date. You review it, adjust the tone, send it. The meeting never gets booked. If you already know the meeting should be async and you just need the artifact, the second prompt goes straight there. You give it the topic, the people involved, the outcome you need, and a reply by date. Claude drafts the communication. You send it instead of a calendar invite. Most calendar invites are a failure of written communication. When someone books a meeting instead of writing something down, it usually means one of two things. They have not thought clearly enough about what they need, or they have thought about it and know it would not survive scrutiny on paper. The meeting is easier. It is harder to say no to, harder to hold accountable, and harder to trace back to a bad decision 6 months later. The three-question filter is not really about productivity. It is about making your thinking visible before it costs someone else's time. Here is the part of this framework that the productivity content often leaves out. Applying a meeting filter with your own team is relatively straightforward. Applying it with clients, senior stakeholders, or people who interpret a written alternative as a slight, that is more complicated. Some people genuinely prefer meetings, not because they are inefficient, but because the relationship is part of the value. A client who wants a weekly check-in call may not be wrong. They may be telling you something about what makes them feel confident in your work. Sending them a structured async brief instead of taking that call is technically more efficient and practically a mistake. The filter is a thinking tool, not a policy. It tells you when a meeting is doing unnecessary work. It does not tell you whether that work is actually unnecessary in the context of the relationship. You still make that call. The AI handles the analysis. You handle the judgment. An earlier video covered how to run a meeting well. This one covers something that compounds faster, running fewer of them. Every meeting that should not have happened is not just an hour saved, it is the hour before it and the hour after it. For a solopreneur running 8 to 10 meetings a week, the meeting filter is worth more than any note-taking system. The two prompts from today handle the analysis and the alternative artifact. What they cannot handle is the habit of pausing before you hit accept. That part is yours. Your one action today. Look at your calendar for the next 5 days. Find one recurring meeting or standing check-in you have never questioned. Run the 3-question filter on it. Be honest. If it fails 2 questions, open Claude and run the pre-meeting assessment prompt. You do not have to cancel anything today. Just apply the filter once and see what it surfaces. The prompts are in the free resource linked in the description. If this was useful, subscribe so you don't miss out.